If there's one thing that we know for sure, had Lucas Paqueta not had the FA charges hanging over his head for the last 2 years, he would have had a Premier League Champions medal and he could have been the catalyst to take Man City to glory in Europe as well. Now, this summer, he may well have been preparing for his third season as a Man City player. And if there's anything remotely good about the FA charges over Paquetá, it is that he's remained a West Ham player for the past 2 seasons, for 2 seasons longer than we all thought he would. Now, how likely the Brazilian is to stay at West Ham for a fourth season is now being questioned, mainly by pundits who cannot abide to see a world class player at West Ham United. Now, before I carry on, if you've yet to subscribe to the West Ham Voice, or if you've watched me before, or if you're new to this channel, please do subscribe. All the content is free, and there's no charge for subscribing. But if you might start thinking about unsubscribing, I'd really, really like to know why you would consider it. So before unsubscribing, do sort of send me a message and say why. You can leave a comment after this show and tell me why. I'm not encouraging you to unsubscribe. I'm encouraging you to subscribe. So please do become a subscriber. And at the end of the show, please do hit the like button as well. Right, back to Paquetá. We thought we had three world-class players amongst our ranks at West Ham: Paquetá, Bowen, and Kudus. But one has flown the nest, and the press is now trying ever so hard to encourage clubs to bid for both Bowen and Paquetá. Newspaper and social media columns does stir up the hornet's nest, whether we like it or not. But with Jared Bowen being wedded to West Ham, the chances of him leaving, especially this summer, are slim to zero. But what about Paquetá? Now, in the build-up to our last game on Sunday in the US against Bournemouth, where we beat them 2-0, Graham Potter stated that Paquetá is happy to stay at West Ham. Potter said, "You never know for sure because anything can happen in the window with anybody. But the news is incredibly positive. If the FA hearing had gone the other way, there would have been a whole line of other questioning. Lucas is happy and committed. He's an important person in the dressing room and at the club, and we love him. We just want to help him enjoy his football." Well, let's hope that the Brazilian continues to enjoy his football at West Ham for at least another season. But fans are right to be apprehensive over the chances of Paquetá staying for another season. It'll be his fourth in total. Now, he turns 28 later this month on the 27th of August. And if he stays at the club for this season, by the end of it, he will only have a year left on his contract, which will inevitably devalue him somewhat. He won't be the 50, 60, 70 million pound player that David Sullivan believes he is. But there is, of course, an option of extending that contract for a further year. Now, if West Ham were to trigger that additional year, it will probably be for the sole purpose of increasing his value again next summer so that we can demand a decent fee for him. But despite the media noise, if the player is happy, then why the apprehension? Well, that's simple to answer because it is becoming ever so apparent that Graham Potter is not fully in charge of the comings and goings of players at West Ham in this transfer window. It's questionable whether Carl Walker-Peters could have been a Potter and Macaulay signing, but not altogether unrealistic, given that Potter has been known to bring in experienced players at his time at Bournemouth to provide a balance of new players and experienced players. But many fans would quite rightly say that or suggest that Callum Wilson, the signing of Callum Wilson, was indeed a David Sullivan special, who never really learns his lesson. And alongside his trusted agent, Wilson has managed to get a one-year contract despite his age and his awful injury record. Now, clearly, Potter has to put out a positive spin on the signing of Wilson, talking up his experience and he will, saying that he'll bring something different to our front line and how perhaps Wilson could even complement Fulkrug as their style of play is different. Now, but what I'm also pleased is that Potter made a point of talking up Callum Marshall as well. He seems quite determined that the young player will also get his time on the pitch next season. So it sounds as if Callum Marshall is staying and won't be loaned out. But back to Paquetá, the apprehension is that no one would put it past David Sullivan to sell the player for £50 million if an offer came in. And then he'll state that we were in need of cash flow in order to bring more players in for Potter. Well, all very well if you actually get the players in that Potter wants. But I, for one, would be more than happy for Lucas Paqueta to stay another season at West Ham for a number of reasons. Firstly, he's playing as if he's had the world's problems lifted from his shoulders, and in a way he has. Now that the FA outcome is official, Paqueta looks like a player reborn. Secondly, in pre-season, he's been playing with a swagger, a flow, a kind of a freedom that we've not seen for a while, and he was playing with a smile on his face. Thirdly, as Potter has suggested, he clearly is an important character both on and off the field. You can see it in his approach. You can see the banter he has, especially the teaching of Nicholas Fulkrug how to dance a Brazilian-style dance. And fourthly, I would rather he stays at West Ham because I simply don't trust David Sullivan to allow Graham Potter and Carl McCauley to go out to get ourselves not one, but two central midfielders if Paquetá leaves. Why two? Well, we already know we need another central midfielder in addition to what we already have with Paquetá still there. And if we sell him, then we're going to need not only a midfielder that needs to fill a gap already, but we're also going to need a replacement for him. Look, I know we've got Alvarez, Irving, Ward-Prowse, Soucek, young Freddie Potts. They all play in central midfield and all decent players, but none of them have got the ability to open up a defence with a slide rule pass that we know Paquetá can deliver. So we would be even lighter in midfield as we will not have a creative force there. But as the transfer window starts to draw to a close, the last thing we want is a last-minute bid for Paquetá, where then it will be too late to get new signings in, or because the players we were targeting have already gone to other clubs. So there is a concern. And the end of the transfer window really can't come soon enough, whilst the threat of Paquetá being sold looms large. Now, if we go back to what Graham Potter said in that interview, he said, and it's just the first sentence that's the most crucial, you never know for sure because anything can happen in the window with anybody, which leaves, of course, a small doubt in all our minds, doesn't it? Now, there is another thing that we know for sure. Pep Guardiola is still an admirer of the 27-year-old Brazilian. And there are conflicting stories where some suggest that Guardiola has moved on from Paquetá, whilst other stories suggest he would still welcome the opportunity to sign him. Now, we've heard that Man City is targeting a number of central midfielders, with Fermin Lopez, a graduate of the Barcelona Academy, being a suggested target. But that doesn't mean that Guardiola would completely discard the opportunity of getting Paquetá altogether. We keep hearing from the senior source that all transfer decisions are down to Graham Potter. But are they? As mentioned, one big offer for Paquetá can completely change the whole landscape. We have made 3 signings so far in this summer window, 2 defenders and, of course, a striker. We know that we need more players to add to this squad. Another keeper, or maybe another 2 keepers, dependent on Alphonse Areola's future. And at least at this moment in time, another 1 central midfielder, if not 2, if we sell Lucas Paqueta. But if he leaves, unlike Mohamed Kudus's departure, he will leave a massive gap in this squad. Now, we all know Kudus is a very good footballer, but with the return of Crescencio Somerville, I believe we've got a ready-made replacement for Kudus already, but we do not have a ready-made replacement for the Brazilian. Now, West Ham have stated that there's no way that Paquetá is going to go anywhere for £30 million. But like I said, what if a bid of, say, 50, 60 million pounds comes in? What then? We can't I know Sullivan is upset with the stories that come out about, we would sell Paquetá for 30 million. And he said it hurts the club. Well, it only hurts the club if you actually decide to sell him for 30 million. You can just ignore those stories altogether. Now, with the system that Potter is adopting, it's almost certain he's got a back three with or a back five, or a three with two wing backs, with three central midfielders and one attacking player to support the striker up front. Now, for me, the three central midfielders, when they're all fit, should be Alvarez, Paquetá, and another. A box-to-box midfielder who can support Alvarez in defensive duties and who can support Paquetá in the more creative duties further up the field. A bit of a Declan Rice, maybe? So getting rid of Paquetá will leave a bigger hole that has to be filled. Now, if Paquetá was to be sold and the club did get, say, £50 million for the sale, it could or it should very much lead to the purchase of the two types of central midfielders that we know we would need. But it's the business end that worries me. I've already said this. Carl McCauley, I am sure, has got a list of players he would want to bring in, but we're not seeing that list realised, are we? And that's the bit that concerns me. We've constantly been linked to some exciting young talent. Mads Hermansen and Zion Suzuki in goal. Midfielders Ardon Jashari, Rafael Onyedika, Matthias Fernandes, Harvey Elliott, James McAtee. Now, if Man City did come calling for Paquetá, and the only thing that might possibly ease the pain somewhat is for Guardiola to agree for McAtee to come the other way, plus a payment to us of about £30 million. A swap plus cash deal for Paquetá is probably one of the few things that the fans might accept reluctantly. To get a player of the quality of McAtee would be a cushion that we will probably be able to live with. And then in addition to the 30 million that will come with him, and what's left of the Kudus money could certainly go towards other players being bought. And maybe to get McAtee to West Ham could potentially be the catalyst for other decent young players to follow. Imagine if we got both Harvey Elliott and McAtee to West Ham. Now, that would certainly fill the gaps in central midfield, and that would certainly be something worth looking forward to. Failing a move from Man City for the player, we also need to brace ourselves for a very possible late bid from a Saudi club. A move there could certainly make up for all the loss of income that Paquetá has incurred over the past 2 years when his potential £85 million deal to go to Man City fell through. And a bid from a Saudi club would even sort out our miserable cash flow and PSR issues almost overnight. But as with Man City, a move to a Saudi club would be no different. We still need to go and find ourselves a decent player to replace Paquetá and another decent player to play alongside the new replacements. Just under 4 weeks to go before the transfer window shuts altogether. It's going to be a bumpy ride between now and that window shutting. There could be more twists and turns to come. I hope you're ready for them. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Like I said, if you've enjoyed the show and you've yet to become a subscriber, do please subscribe. And like I said, if you're thinking about unsubscribing, do let me know. Tell me, it really does help. It helps all content creators to understand what you like about them and what you don't like about them. So tell me what you don't like, or what you haven't liked, and I'll try to improve so that you can stay a subscriber. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you all again very soon.